I'm Morgan, 28 years old, a programmer who once believed that family love could be earned through sacrifice. For years, I carried everything for them, from the smallest daily needs to the hardest moments, thinking that doing so would finally make me matter. I gave up my own dreams just to hold on to a place in their hearts. But at my parents' 35th wedding anniversary, held in a lavish Denver restaurant, everything collapsed. I had planned it all. Every detail, every expense, even the extravagant gift. Yet when I stood to present it, my father laughed coldly and said, "You're not even part of this family." My mother only smirked. Those words cut into me like a blade. I could have broken down right there, but instead, I lifted my glass and calmly replied, "Okay. Then don't ever ask me for money again." Their faces darkened. The room sank into a suffocating silence. Do you think blood ties equal loyalty, or is respect something that must be earned? Share your opinion in the comments. Growing up in Denver, I was always the odd one out. My sister, Bianca, 2 years older, was Mom's golden child. She could do no wrong, straight A's, charming smile, always the center of attention at family dinners. I was the quiet one, the kid who studied late and kept my head down. Mom would say, "Why can't you be more like Bianca?" And Dad would just nod, too busy with his warehouse manager job to argue. I didn't mind too much back then. I figured I'd find my place eventually, maybe when I made them proud. Things changed when I was 13. Dad's company downsized, and he lost his job. Overnight, our stable life unraveled. The mortgage payments piled up, and Mom's part-time gigs couldn't cover the bills. I overheard them arguing late at night, Dad's voice low, Mom's sharp with worry. Bianca, 15 at the time, didn't seem fazed. She still got new clothes and went to dance classes. I started mowing lawns after school, saving every penny to help with groceries. It wasn't much, but it felt like my way of proving I belonged. By the time I got to college, studying computer science at the University of Colorado, things were tighter. Mom's health took a hit. She needed meds for her heart condition, and the bills were brutal. Bianca was working odd jobs, but her paychecks went to her own expenses, not the family's. I took on 2 part-time jobs, coding freelance apps and waiting tables, to send money home. My first check, $500, went straight to Mom's hospital bill. It felt good, like I was finally part of the team. Every month after that, I sent whatever I could, $200 here, $300 there, scraping by on instant noodles to keep their lights on. After graduation, I landed a programming job at a tech startup in Denver. My salary jumped, and so did their expectations. Dad needed help with the mortgage again. They'd fallen behind after he took a lower-paying job. Mom's medical costs kept climbing, tests, prescriptions, specialist visits. Bianca, now living in her own apartment, couldn't make rent half the time. So, I stepped up. I sent $1,000 a month, sometimes 2, covering their rent, utilities, and even Bianca's car payments when she fell short. I didn't take vacations. I didn't buy nice things for myself. My apartment was a 1-bedroom with second-hand furniture, but I told myself it was worth it. They were my family, and family sticks together. It wasn't just money. I spent hours on the phone with Mom, listening to her vent about doctor's appointments or Dad's stubbornness. I helped Bianca with her resume, hoping she'd find a steady job. I thought I was building something, trust, loyalty, a bond that would last. But there were signs I ignored. Mom's thank yous grew shorter, more like an afterthought. Bianca never asked how I was doing. She'd just text, "Can you cover rent again?" Dad rarely called unless he needed something fixed, like the car or the water heater. I brushed it off. They were busy, stressed. I told myself they'd see my effort one day. Looking back, I was naive. I thought pouring money into their lives would make me indispensable, that they'd finally see me as more than the quiet kid who wasn't Bianca. I didn't realize I was setting myself up for a fall, that my sacrifices were less about love and more about their convenience. But that realization was still years away. I kept sending checks month after month, believing it was my duty. It was a lot of work, but I was used to carrying the load. Planning their anniversary took everything I had. I wanted their 35th wedding anniversary to be perfect, a moment where we'd all feel like a family again. Dino and Vows, a cozy Italian restaurant in Denver, seemed like the ideal spot, elegant but warm, the kind of place where memories are made. I booked it months in advance, spending hours on the phone with the manager to nail down every detail. The menu was set: appetizers, pasta dishes, tiramisu for dessert, all chosen to suit Mom's love for Italian food and Dad's preference for hearty meals. I even arranged for a private corner with extra decorations, string lights, fresh flowers, a small banner saying 35 years strong. It wasn't cheap. The deposit alone was $2,000, but I didn't hesitate. This was for them. The gift was the real centerpiece. I'd saved up for months to buy them a European vacation. A 2-week trip to Italy, complete with flights, hotels, and guided tours through Rome, Florence, and Venice. $15,000 straight from my savings. I pictured them strolling through cobblestone streets, Mom snapping photos, Dad grumbling but secretly thrilled. It felt like the kind of gift that could bridge the gap between us, make them see how much I cared. I spent nights researching itineraries, making sure every detail was perfect: first-class flights, a private gondola ride in Venice, even a cooking class for Mom. I wanted it to be unforgettable. I couldn't do it all alone, so I reached out to Bianca. I called her one evening, hoping she'd pitch in, maybe help with the planning, or at least show some excitement. "Hey Bianca, I'm organizing Mom and Dad's anniversary at Dino and Vows. I said I'm covering the costs, but maybe we could present the gift as a family thing." Her response was flat. "Sure, whatever. Just let me know what to bring." No enthusiasm. No offer to help. I brushed it off. She was always like that, more focused on her own life than ours. Still, it stung. I'd hoped for a partner in this, someone to share the load. Mom was worse. I visited her one afternoon to go over the plans, bringing a folder with the menu and gift details. "Mom, I booked Vino and Vows for the anniversary," I said, spreading out the papers. "It's all set: food, decorations, and a big surprise gift. Should we say it's from both me and Bianca?" Her eyes flicked over the papers, then back to me. "You're doing too much, Morgan," she said, her tone clipped. "It's not necessary." No smile, no warmth. I felt a knot in my stomach. Was she annoyed? Embarrassed? I couldn't tell. "I just wanted it to be special," I said, forcing a smile. She shrugged and changed the subject to her latest doctor's appointment. I left feeling smaller, like my effort was an inconvenience. Dad wasn't much better. I called him to confirm he'd be free that night. "Sounds expensive," he grunted when I mentioned the restaurant. "You sure you can afford it?" I laughed it off, but his words lingered. I was paying for everything: $5,000 for the dinner, decorations, and extras, on top of the gift. I'd worked overtime for weeks, skipping my own plans to make this happen. Yet, neither of them seemed to care. Bianca didn't even ask about the details after our call. I kept going, though. I told myself it was normal. They were stressed, maybe overwhelmed. This night would change things. They'd see how much I'd done, how much I loved them. I handled the logistics alone. I coordinated with the restaurant to ensure the table was set just right, confirmed the delivery of the flowers, and double-checked the travel agency for the trip details. Every evening after work, I'd sit at my desk tweaking the plan, making sure nothing would go wrong. I even designed a card to go with the gift, writing a heartfelt note about their 35 years together and how proud I was to be their daughter. I spent hours on it, choosing every word carefully. It felt like my last chance to show them I belonged. But that nagging feeling wouldn't go away. Mom's coldness, Bianca's indifference, Dad's skepticism, they all chipped away at my excitement. I pushed it down, focusing on the goal. This was for them, for us. I'd make it perfect no matter what. The night of the anniversary arrived, and I was ready. The restaurant buzzed with energy, waiters gliding between tables, the clink of glasses, the hum of conversation. Our private corner glowed with string lights and fresh flowers. I had paid for a setting that looked perfect for the celebration. I wore a simple burgundy dress I'd bought just for the occasion, hoping I might finally feel like I belonged there. Bianca sat across from me, scrolling on her phone. Mom sipped her wine, barely glancing my way. Dad leaned back, looking impatient. I took a deep breath, determined to make this moment count. The dinner started smoothly. We ate appetizers, bruschetta, calamari, and I tried to keep things light. "So, Dad, remember your old fishing trips?" I asked, hoping to spark a warm memory. He shrugged. "Those were better days," he said, his tone flat. Bianca chimed in, smirking. "Yeah, before you got all high and mighty with your tech job." I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. "I just meant," I started, but Mom cut me off. "Let's not talk about work, Morgan. It's boring." Her voice was sharp, dismissive. I swallowed hard, forcing a smile. They'd always done this, poked at my success like it was a flaw. But tonight, it felt heavier. As the main course arrived, the jabs kept coming. Bianca mentioned my long hours, saying, "Must be nice making all that money, huh?" Dad snorted. "Yeah, too good for us regular folks now." I gripped my napkin, my chest tightening. I'd spent $5,000 on this dinner, poured my heart into every detail, and they were turning it into a game of tearing me down. I tried to steer the conversation back, asking Mom about her favorite dish. She rolled her eyes. "You always make everything about you," she said. I bit my lip, willing myself to stay calm. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. The waiter cleared the plates, and I stood holding the envelope with the gift. My hands shook, but I forced my voice to stay steady. "Mom, Dad, I wanted to do something special for your 35th anniversary," I said. "I got you a 2-week trip to Italy. Flights, hotels, tours through Rome, Florence, Venice, everything. It's worth $15,000, and it's my gift to you." I slid the envelope across the table, my heart pounding. I'd saved for months, worked overtime, dreamed of their smiles when they saw it. Dad took the envelope, glanced inside, and laughed, a cold, mocking sound. "You're not even part of this family," he said, tossing it back. "What's this? Some way to show off?" Mom smirked, her eyes glinting with amusement. Bianca looked down, silent. The words hit like a slap. My vision blurred. My throat burned. Years of sending them money, thousands for rent, medical bills, Bianca's car, flashed through my mind. I'd given everything, and this was what they thought of me. I could have cried. I could have begged them to take it back. But something snapped. I straightened, my voice low but firm. "Okay, Richard, Susan," I said, using their names to cut through the pretense. "Then stop asking me for money." Their faces froze. Bianca's jaw dropped. The table went silent, the other guests oblivious to the storm brewing in our corner. I grabbed my purse and pulled out my card. "We're splitting the bill," I said, tossing it to the waiter. "I'm done paying for everything." Mom's smirk vanished. Dad's eyes widened, but he said nothing. Bianca just stared. I walked out, my heels clicking on the hardwood floor. My heart raced, but my steps were steady. I'd given them my all, and they'd thrown it back in my face. There was no going back now. I didn't look back as I left the restaurant behind. I drove home in silence. I'd spent years pouring money into their lives, tens of thousands for rent, medical bills, car payments, and they dismissed me like I was nothing. That was the last straw. The next morning, I made a choice. I blocked their numbers. Mom, Dad, Bianca. No more calls. No more texts asking for just a little help. I stopped the automatic transfers to their accounts, the ones I'd set up to cover their bills. It felt strange, like cutting a rope I'd been clinging to for years. My bank account, usually drained by the 15th of every month, suddenly had a balance. I stared at it, almost disbelieving. For the first time, that money was mine. I didn't process it alone. Tasha, my best friend and co-worker at the tech startup, invited me for coffee a few days later. We sat at a small cafe in downtown Denver, the kind with mismatched chairs and loud music. I told her everything, the dinner, the gift, Dad's cruel laugh, Mom's cold agreement, my response. Tasha leaned forward, her eyes fierce. "Morgan, they've been using you," she said. "You've been their ATM for years, and they don't even respect you." Her words hit hard, but they rang true. I'd always justified their demands. Family helps family, right? But Tasha laid it bare. I wasn't family to them. I was a resource. She didn't stop there. "You're killing yourself for people who don't care," she said, stirring her latte. "You're 28, brilliant, and you're putting their lives before yours." I nodded, my throat tight. I'd never seen it so clearly. Every time I sent money, I told myself it was love, duty. But love doesn't demand your last dollar while laughing in your face. Tasha's honesty was a lifeline, pulling me out of the fog I'd been in. I started to shift my focus. Work became my anchor. I'd always been good at my job, coding, problem-solving, building apps, but I'd never given it my all. Too much energy went to Mom's hospital bills, Bianca's rent, Dad's endless emergencies. Now, I poured myself into my projects. I stayed late, not out of obligation, but because I loved it. My team noticed. My manager pulled me aside one day, praising my latest app feature, a sleek interface that streamlined user data. "You're on fire, Morgan," he said. It was the first time in years I felt seen for something I did, not something I paid for. I also started small changes. I bought a new couch for my apartment, replacing the lumpy one I'd tolerated for years. I signed up for a weekend hiking group, something I'd never had time for. Each step felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. The guilt lingered. Years of conditioning don't vanish overnight, but every day it faded a little more. I wasn't responsible for their lives. I was responsible for mine. Of course, they tried to reach me. A week after the dinner, I got an email from Bianca. "We need to talk," it said. "Things are tight." I deleted it. Mom left a voicemail, her voice sugary, asking me to call back. I didn't. Dad sent a text, "You're being selfish." I blocked the new number he used. It wasn't easy. Each message tugged at old habits, but I held firm. Tasha was right. I'd given enough. By the end of the first month, I felt lighter. My bank account wasn't a black hole anymore. I could breathe, plan, dream. I started researching online courses to level up my coding skills, maybe aim for a promotion. For the first time, I saw a future that wasn't tied to their demands. I wasn't just free from them, I was free to be me. But I knew they wouldn't let go so easily. A few months after I cut them off, the fallout hit them hard. Bianca was the first to crumble. She'd been scraping by, relying on my checks to cover her rent in that overpriced Denver apartment. Without my help, she fell behind 3 months, then 4. Her landlord wasn't patient. By spring, she was evicted, forced to move into a cramped studio on the edge of town. She sent me a frantic email, begging for $2,000 to get back on her feet. "You owe us, Morgan," she wrote, her words dripping with desperation. I didn't reply. I'd spent years bailing her out, and I was done. Mom and Dad faced their own reckoning. Without my monthly transfers, thousands to cover their mortgage, utilities, Mom's heart medication, they couldn't keep up. Dad's part-time job at the hardware store barely paid the bills, and Mom's health costs kept climbing. They missed payments, racked up late fees, and the bank started calling. By summer, they had no choice. They sold their house, the one I'd grown up in, to settle their debts. They downsized to a small condo, a far cry from the spacious home they'd clung to. I heard about it through a cousin's message, but I didn't reach out. Their choices weren't my burden anymore. They tried to pull me back in. Mom called from a new number, her voice soft, almost pleading. "Morgan, we're struggling. Can't you help just this once?" I listened, my heart racing, but I stayed firm. "No, Mom," I said. "You made it clear I'm not family." I hung up. Dad tried next, leaving voicemails about how I was abandoning them, how I'd regret it. Bianca sent texts accusing me of being heartless. Each attempt was harder to ignore, but I held my ground. I'd given them enough, tens of thousands over the years, my time, my energy. No more. While their lives unraveled, mine took off. I threw myself into work, and it paid dividends. My manager noticed my focus, assigning me to lead a major project, a new app for a big client. I spent late nights coding, refining every detail, and it felt good to pour my energy into something that valued me. By fall, the app launched, earning praise from the client and a bonus of $5,000. My team celebrated at a bar downtown, and for the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere. My manager hinted at a promotion, maybe a senior developer role. I started to see a future where I wasn't just surviving, but thriving. Outside work, I built a life I'd never had time for. I joined a book club, meeting new people who didn't expect anything from me except good conversation. I took weekend trips, hiking in the Rockies, a quick getaway to Santa Fe. I even splurged on a painting for my apartment, something bright and bold that made the space mine. Each choice, big or small, felt like a step toward freedom. I wasn't weighed down by their demands anymore. My bank account grew, and so did my confidence. I could plan, dream, live without looking over my shoulder. They kept trying, though. Bianca sent another email offering a half-hearted apology, then asking for a loan. Dad left a message saying they'd lost everything because of me. Mom's voicemails grew sharper, accusing me of turning my back on family. I deleted them all. Their words stung, but they didn't sway me. I'd spent too long believing I had to earn their love. Now I knew better. Their struggles were the consequences of their choices, not mine. A year later, I'd built a new life. My apartment in Denver felt like a sanctuary, filled with things I'd chosen, a cozy rug, a shelf of books I actually had time to read, a view of the mountains that greeted me each morning. I'd been promoted to senior developer at the tech startup, leading a team of 5 on a new project. The work was demanding, but I thrived on it. My days were filled with code reviews, brainstorming sessions, and the kind of challenges that made me feel alive. I'd earned a raise, $10,000 more a year. And for once, I wasn't funneling it to anyone else. I was saving for a trip of my own, maybe to Japan, somewhere I'd always wanted to go. Tasha was the only one I kept close. We met up regularly, grabbing dinner at new restaurants or hiking trails outside the city. She'd become more than a friend, a sister in every way that mattered. Over sushi one night, I told her how different life felt now. "You did the right thing, Morgan," she said, raising her glass. "You're not their ATM anymore." Her support grounded me, a reminder that I didn't need to beg for love. I could choose who deserved my time. My family, though, hadn't changed. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Bianca was still struggling, bouncing between low-paying jobs and borrowing money from whoever would lend it. She'd sent me a letter, not an email, an actual letter, blaming me for her situation. "You abandoned us when we needed you most," she wrote. I read it once, then tossed it in the trash. Mom and Dad were no better. They'd settled into their condo, but Dad's bitterness hadn't faded. He'd left a message with Tasha, of all people, saying I'd ruined their lives by cutting them off. Mom's occasional texts were laced with guilt trips, hinting that I owed them for raising me. I didn't respond. Their words no longer had power over me. I thought about them sometimes, especially late at night when the quiet let old memories creep in. I'd remember Dad's rare smiles, Mom's cooking, Bianca's laughter from when we were kids. But those moments were overshadowed by years of demands, mockery, and dismissal. They'd made it clear I wasn't family, not in the way that mattered. I'd spent too long trying to prove otherwise, emptying my wallet and my heart to earn a place they'd never give me. Cutting them off wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming my worth. I also took up yoga, finding calm in the steady rhythm of breath and movement. It was something Mom would have scoffed at, calling it a waste of time, but it helped me stay centered. I'd go to the studio after work, surrounded by people who didn't know my past, who didn't expect anything but a smile. I started volunteering at a local coding boot camp, teaching young women how to build their first apps. Watching their faces light up when their code worked reminded me why I loved my job. It wasn't just about the paycheck. It was about creating something that mattered. These small choices, yoga, volunteering, a quiet coffee with Tasha, wove together a life I hadn't dared dream of before. They showed me I could be whole without their approval. The lesson hit me slowly, but it stuck. Setting boundaries wasn't selfish, it was survival. I'd let them drain me for years, believing family meant saying yes to every request, no matter the cost. But family isn't a contract to be used. It's supposed to be mutual, built on respect, not obligation. Walking away was the hardest thing I'd ever done. But it taught me that my value didn't depend on their approval. I could love myself enough to say no, even to the people who raised me. My life now was proof of that. I'd joined a photography class, capturing the Rockies' golden sunsets on weekends. I'd hosted a small dinner party for my team, laughing over homemade pizza and wine. I'd even started mentoring a junior developer, passing on what I'd learned. Each step forward felt like a brick in the foundation of a life I'd built, not inherited. I wasn't perfect. Guilt still flickered sometimes, wondering if I could have done more, but I'd learned to quiet it. I was enough. They'd never see it, and that was okay. Bianca was still angry. Mom and Dad still resentful, but their blame couldn't touch me anymore. I'd chosen myself, and I'd choose myself again. If you're out there pouring everything into people who don't see your worth, know this: you can walk away. You can build a life that's yours. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Every struggle, every lonely night, was the price of admission for the peace I have now. I finally realized that family isn't about blood, it's about who stands by you. And for the first time in my life, the person standing by me is me. Am I the jerk for finally cutting them off after they insulted me, even though they ended up losing their home? Or should I have given them one last chance? Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. See you in the next video.